The NBA and the players are discussing withholding pay if regular season games are canceled. Our Adrian Wojnarowski and Bobby Marks are reporting the groups are weighing scenarios that would include a 25% withholding of remaining salaries to be put in escrow. Let's find out more about this with our NBA insider, Brian Windhorst, who joins us here. Wendy, what are you hearing?
Yeah, this is actually, in my opinion, a pretty good sign because it shows that the owners and the players want to work together. The owners have the right within the CBA to just take the money, Greeny. They can just enact the force majeure and say, we're not giving it to you, we're going to keep it. What they want to do here is say, we don't want to cancel games yet, but in the event that we cancel games, we're going to hold some of that money aside, which they have the right to under their agreement. The interesting thing about this is there's a few players out there who have already been paid the majority of their salary. As an example, LeBron James, because he is who he is, his contract got him $18 million right up front in his first paycheck of the year last October. And so technically, if they do this, LeBron would owe the NBA a check because he would have already made the most of his money. Now, they wouldn't do that. He would just pay in the future on salaries, but that just shows you where the league is going to be if they go this route.
When you say it's a good sign, is it any indication in any way of their thinking relative to the likelihood of all of the remaining games being canceled?
Yeah, I do think it's a good point, Greeny. I do think they're setting the stage here and setting the signal. They know they're not going to be able to probably resume the regular season. And they're taking provisions now to do that. But there are other things in play here. And, baseball did a deal with its union last week, and they got some things in there that were not just financially related. They changed some of the draft rules. We could see, because this is now a negotiating thing, we could see a change to the draft. We could see them begin to discuss the one and done, not for this draft, obviously, but in the future. We could see them negotiate other points. Heck, we could even see the players ask about drug testing, the marijuana testing, which is currently suspended. There's other things on the table they could talk about beyond the ramifications of the pressures of the moment.
Let's go back to the conversation we were having yesterday. And again, it's not the most positive of news, but it doesn't mean anything definitive. The Chinese Basketball Association, which you have been following closely how this has gone there and how it may inform what will happen here. What is the latest as far as the circumstances there and what it may portend for the NBA going forward?
Well, as you can imagine, after we put out a report yesterday, because it wasn't really highly reported in China, there was a wave of interest from the players, especially the Western players, who wanted to know what was going to happen, especially those players sitting in quarantine. And Yao Ming, who runs that league, and other people in his office have said to them, we are going to play. Stick with us, trust us to get through this period here. We're going to work with the government, we're going to play. So I think there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I will say this, Greeny, we're going to go through a couple of very difficult weeks as a country here, I think. But I do think that the groundwork is being laid here to make this happen. There is belief that we can get on the other side of this and we can begin to think about other things, even though at the moment, that's a challenge in our society.
Very quickly, because Booger McFarland at the beginning of our show today talked about how if NFL players are asked to leave their families for a substantial period of time to try and get a league, the league season started, that he would have a problem with that and expects that a lot of players would have a problem with it. The Chinese Basketball Association, as you pointed out, can just enact it, and the players can either do it or they just are going to be out. That's obviously not the way business works here. So in the NBA, what would be your sense if the NBA said, we're going to start this thing by quarantining all of our players somewhere away from everyone, including their families? Do you think the players, most of them, would do it?
Well, you've hit on something here, because I think this is one of the reasons why the owners want to enter into a financial agreement right now. Because, again, they could just take the money. They could take all the money if they wanted to. It sounds like they only want to take 25%. Because ultimately they're going to have to come to an agreement with the players if they have to do that. They can't just enact that. Not only that, but the calendar of the season, the calendar of the way players go about their business is going to expire. They're not going to be able to do it. So they're going to have to come to the players and work this out. The answer to your question is we don't know. Where people's heads are at right now may not be where they are in 2 months. But I do think if they're going to be able to figure this out, it's going to require some sort of measure in that realm.